Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Happy Monday. It's so good to see all of you after, I don't think it's been too long, but we had a fantastic Lead Grow Deepen Juneteenth series with Shannon, and it's so good to be back. If we haven't met yet, my name is Lauren Beckwith. My pronouns are she, her, and I work as a program manager for food experiences at ISS Guggenheimer. It is great to see all of you. As you are joining, please go ahead over to the chat box. Let us know where you're calling in from. Even if you're joining on the on-demand viewing, it's good to see you again. Say hi to your team members throughout this event. We'd love for you to use that chat box. Let us know your questions that you have for our guest. If you have comments, if you want to send us a little fire emoji, we would appreciate that as well. So let's see, who do we have here? Welcome, welcome. Yep, go ahead on over to that chat box. Let us know where you're calling in from. So if you are a seasoned viewer of Lead Grow Deepen, thanks for coming back. It's good to see you again. If you are a first-time viewer, welcome. The goal of this series really is to highlight the ways that we and other industry professionals lead with inclusion, grow diverse representation, and deepen our partnerships through diversity, equity, and inclusion. At ISS Guggenheimer, we know that it's the people, that's you, that make places, and we're a company of belonging. One way that we hope that you will find belonging in the workplace is through our ERGs. So if you would like to get involved with our ERGs, please scan this QR code that's up on the screen and complete the form to get involved and learn more. Now, I am so ready for all of you to meet our guest today, Sanjeev Mankotia. He's the founder of GaeaStar, a technology and materials based company that aims to eliminate the global impact of single-use plastics. Sanjeev currently holds multiple patents and is a published author in industry journals. The son of an Indian diplomat, Sanjeev has lived in 7 different countries and currently resides in San Francisco, California. I'm so excited to introduce all of you to Sanjeev. Welcome, Sanjeev.
Thanks for having me, Lauren.
Now, to get to know you a little bit better, we're food people, right? So we're going to start talking about food. Can you tell us, what is your favorite meal and why?
Sure. So I've been very fortunate. My mom's a very, very good cook, Indian mom, very traditional food maker. So she makes this very simple yellow dal with basmati rice and sauteed okras, and that happens to be very simple, but one of my favorite dishes or meals. And why it's so favorite, I think, the flavors are very simple. I grew up with it, so there's some aspect of, being home with the flavors I associated in that way. That's my, very simple answer to that question.
Now, did you learn the recipe? Did she teach you how to make it? Do you make it yourself?
I do. She can make it in probably like 10 minutes flat.
Okay.
It takes me a lot longer. And of course, it never turns out, the way it does. She's been doing this for probably 50 years.
There's nothing quite like mom's cooking.
Count.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like mom's cooking, right? Now, we're going to dive into GaeaStar shortly, but I'm curious just to get to know you, other than the yellow lentil dal. Tell us a little bit more about your background, who you are.
Sure. So I'm a trained mechanical engineer. That's what I studied at university as an undergrad. And as an engineer, I worked for several years in the bicycling industry. I used to be very fond of cycling, or I call myself a cyclist. And that was my dream job. So I worked in that industry for a bit, and then went on to continue my engineering career in the automotive industry, both in vehicle dynamics and also developing internal combustion engines. After that, I got seduced by finance, and then the past 20 years I've been in banking and management consulting in the finance industry.
Fantastic. So you have quite the background. Have you taken to the streets of San Francisco though to try cycling?
Yes, that's where an e-bike becomes very important. Yes, I have, and that's if you can make the hills of San Francisco, then you're a very very fit cyclist, I would say.
Very fit, very brave cyclist. Okay, so
Yes,
let's talk about GaeaStar. So GaeaStar is an engineering company, and you're developing technology to create more planet-friendly products. Why this specific scope of work? Just hearing about your background, right? Why this specific scope of work, and why now?
sure. And I wasn't looking to become an entrepreneur. I was certainly, giving away my age when I tell you my experience in business and stuff, but it was sort of an observation from nature. Having lived in many countries growing up, thanks to my parents' jobs, and seeing progressively beautiful places being littered by single-use products or mostly plastics, and it's wanting to change that really. And I think it's going to take all of us collectively to make conscious efforts to get away from sort of throwaway plastics that actually cause a lot of are causing a lot of damage. So, having that in mind, being a cyclist, looking at things in nature, sort of two and two started coming together. Now, I've had this idea for over 15 years, and I'll share with you how I came to the idea. But at some point, it was a decision that I made, like, I want to do this. And if I don't try doing this, it would be something in my life that I feel I haven't, I would regret. So that's why I'm doing it now, and why I want to do it.
Perfect. And I think I want to just bring a picture up to just show what your product line looks like. And then we're going to talk a little bit more, about what this is, where the idea came from, but essentially a zero waste disposable clay cup.
That's correct. And clay cups or clay vessels are nothing new. Actually, when you think about it, it's throughout human history we've used these. Instead of clay cups, you could call them earthenware
Mm-hmm.
in all different cultures. And it's nothing new that we're doing per se. It's how we're doing it that we're sort of changing, kind of modernizing this
Yeah.
concept of clay earthenware, which has been used in villages, probably still is used in villages, and very very ancient techniques. So it's a technology we've developed to be able to do this in a very rapid manner. Is what the innovation is.
Yes. And so you said you had this idea for 15 plus years. Tell us a little bit more. Like, where did this inspiration come from? What sparked this idea?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Indian by heritage. I was traveling back home, visiting extended family. Even though I've grown up with this, the idea came at that instance is visiting extended family, and one of my relatives wanted to go for a evening walk in the neighborhood, and sort of joined her, and we're walking around, and then she approached a tea vendor. And in India, tea vendors are come from humble backgrounds. They usually have a little rickshaw, and then there's a little pot in the back which has the tea, and or commonly known as chai. So the word chai is, direct translation is tea. So yes, when you go to Starbucks and ask for a chai tea, you're saying, "Do can I get a tea?" But a side note there. But so she asked for a chai, and the tea vendor provided that tea in a crudely made terracotta cup or earthenware cup, and she drank the tea and then threw the cup on the ground, smashing it. And my reaction, of course, coming from the West, was like, "Oh, well, I know India is a developing country, and a lot of progress has been made, but look, you're littering." And her reaction was like, "Well, it's made out of dirt. Like, why do you care?" And I didn't have a good response to that, because I would rather throw a clay cup or a dirt cup on the ground than a plastic cup. There's a
Mm-hmm.
different emotional reaction to that. because I equate clay or earthenware closer to a banana peel or orange peel or orange rind than plastic. Plastic is you could describe it as a forever particle. Never, it might break down into smaller pieces, but it doesn't go away ever. So that's where the sort of idea, I couldn't respond to her, and I was like, well, she's kind of right. And when I thought about it further, I realized, like, Indians have been doing this for thousands of years. This sort of chai cup has been around for thousands of years, and it's never been an issue that there's sort of clay pollution or things. So that's where it came to me. Of course, it has its own challenges. And then the other part of the inspiration was about how eggs, this is from nature, it's a perfect packaging. So I wanted to combine the eggshell thinness to this sort of cooler, or the teacup that you see here. And to be able to do that, pulled on my sort of engineering background, where I had used additive manufacturing before, and additive manufacturing, commonly known as 3D printing. So I wanted to leverage that because that's how I solve the problem. How do I make really thin earthenware? And that's really the technology we have used. So we've developed our own 3D printers that are very fast, and they're not conventional that most people imagine, that you printed layer by layer. We could get into those details later, but it's slightly different. It's our own proprietary technique and technology. So that's kind of roughly where the idea came from.
Very cool. So you were taking a stroll with your family in India, and you saw these cups, and you thought, wow, that's quite interesting. We can do something with this. We can learn from this. You drew on your background where you had used additive manufacturing, 3D printing. And I think this picture is fantastic because it really does show, what does that cup look like in India, and how you've been able to harness this eggshell philosophy, right? That perfect nice thin packaging, and kind of like create something that has this origin in India, but has harness that technology to create something totally new. Very cool.
That's correct.
Very cool. So additive manufacturing, I think, when you and I first started talking, I had not heard that term very often. And you said, similar to 3D printing, or is 3D printing. Is there any other, terminology, or can you just make us a little bit more familiar with what additive manufacturing is?
Yeah, technically, pardon being the engineer here, technically additive manufacturing is the true definition of 3D printing. 3D printing can be thought of really the slang word for additive manufacturing. Mm-hmm. And by definition, additive manufacturing is you add material precisely where you need it. There's no extra. So it's, very, very, it could be even at the molecule scale that you're adding things. So, conventional manufacturing is subtractive manufacturing. You say, you have a block of metal, you want a part of it, you chisel away the extra pieces until you have the shape or the part that you want. Additive is you're adding where you're needed. So that's technically the difference between additive and subtractive. And then the way you do additive manufacturing, one of the processes is what's conventionally known as 3D printing.
Got it. And I feel like most of us are familiar with the term 3D printing because people are printing all kinds of things now. It's quite impressive. Yes. So I love that you're able to use, your background, that technology, the 3D printing, and combine it with this kind of traditional artisan craftsmanship almost. I love that. Okay, so now that we understand where the idea and concept for GaeaStar was born, can you just talk a little bit about, I think in the food service industry, when we go to order single-use products, it's kind of like going to a grocery store and trying to buy yogurt or bread. There are so many different products. Everything has a new badge or a sticker on it saying, if a cup is recyclable, compostable. How are your cups made from earth different than what's already currently on the market?
Sure. So, to us, what we're creating is is a new category. And I'll get into that in a second. So really our vision is one day that our machine, or it was a countertop machine, is in every coffee shop, so you could print on demand. That's really the North Star for us.
Okay.
So you want a little espresso cup, push the button and very quickly. And it's not a new thing to use 3D printers to print ceramics. What our technology is, it's very, very fast. So a conventional 3D printer in ceramics would print a cup probably in an hour or two, just 12-ounce cup. Ours can print it in less than 30 seconds. So that's the difference.
Wow.
Because our vision is, hey, one day it needs to be on demand, and we're trying to get it down to less than 10 seconds, ready to use. We have a lot of engineering to do to get to that. But until we get to that, we know we could fabricate these in our what we call our micro factories. So we want to get our sort of partners and customers, involved in the development of it, so we can make them, we deliver them locally, and get a lot of great feedback. So this new category is really, it's not, if you look at what's available in the market today, it's either your pure single-use paper plastic cup or your $29 ceramic mug. There's nothing in between. We feel we are in between, and that's the new category, that our vessels can be used multiple times, but they're designed, because they're thin, to sort of disintegrate once you're done using them. So it's not a throwaway right away. You could keep using it as long as you take care of it. The only way it stops working is if you, the user, break it, right? And that could be intentional or unintentional. So intentionally, you're done, you've had it for the day, you've had 3-4 coffees out of it, fine. You don't want to carry it in your purse or your bag. You toss it. Our focus is that when you do dispose of it, there is no harm. And that's the whole idea of the new category.
I love that. And I think if you're able to print a cup in 10 seconds or less, I haven't even thought of what I want to order yet in that amount of time. So that is quite impressive. That's quite impressive.
That's the idea. Yeah.
And I think you and I were speaking earlier about just disposing of cups in general, right? And I think you said something like there's 50 billion cups a year in the US are disposed of.
Yeah.
And while compost bins are available, while recycling bins are available, it's not always a convenient option, or it's not always easy to kind of follow that product through its end of life cycle correctly, right?
Yeah. So, let's look at it, because it's really a global problem, not just a US problem. So my last research, we found that it's actually 500 billion single-use cups are used globally on an annual basis. And the other aspect of it is that 99% of those are not recycled or, sort of disposed of properly. And the reason is not, so all of these products that are out there, this includes the compostable, they can be composted and they can be recycled. It's just that it just doesn't happen because it's too expensive to do that. The process is needed. So for example, for recycling a paper plastic cup, you have to actually separate the plastic laminate from the inside, the liner from the paper, for it to get recycled. So it's just cheaper to make a new one. Same with compost, you have to, and if you really read the fine print on each compostable cup, it will say on there, it's only compostable in an industrial facility. And if you look at how many industrial facilities are around, even in the US, it's not many. So, most communities don't have these sort of facilities, let alone a developing country, right? So if the Western world that produces a lot of this can't manage it with all the resources, there's no hope for developing countries, because this is not generated by those cultures. So the other staggering statistic, and this, I think I read it in a UN report, was that 90% of all plastic, you name it, 90% of all plastic ever produced has never been recycled. So this concept of recycling and composting that has been propagated is a lot of fine print to it. So Here, for our product, we're saying when you really think about it, it's made out of sand essentially. So when you throw it away, you're throwing dirt away. Um, and
So
if
there
you were
isn't
to think
anything
of,
to break down, right?
yeah, there's nothing. It's inert. If you even throw it into the landfill, you're literally throwing dirt back into the landfill. And because they're so thin, it's not a lot of material. Another way to think about it is when you think about how paper is produced, you have to synthesize paper, you have to synthesize plastic, extremely dirty and energy intensive. Then you have all of this being shipped to a distributor, and then ultimately it ends up at the coffee shop. You and I, as customers, use this for 15 minutes, maybe a single. They have their coffee and toss it. And we've always thought there's a recycling, there's a waste stream that's taking care of it. The reality is it's all going into the landfill. So if you were to draw a box around this end to end, from synthesizing paper and synthesizing plastic all the way, it's an extremely complex, sort of supply chain. And we're saying our process, if you draw a box around it, is much smaller. So in terms of energy and cost and stuff, huge dramatic differences. So,
Wow.
but at the end, when you throw this away, yes, you are throwing some dirt away.
I think that's really eye-opening. I think, we're all trying our best out there, right? So when we see a
Yes.
compost bin, we see a recycling bin, we're trying to sort appropriately. But I think what you're saying is that there are just prohibitive things that make it so that those aren't ultimately disposed of properly, right? And so what you're
Yeah.
doing, being able to 3D print a cup made from earth in 10 seconds in a unit, have someone enjoy their beverage, and then be able to decide, I've used this once, I can save it and bring it with me. Or if that's not convenient at the time, I can now tell us about the Smash Box. I can put it in a Smash
Yeah.
Box.
Yes. Yes. So exactly, right. So one, when you're asking us asking me how the product is different, number one is the user experience is much more luxurious, because at home you always drink out of a ceramic. So we feel that's the same here. We're giving you like the fine china experience, but with the convenience of disposability. So we want to make the products to be as beautiful as possible, that you don't throw them away. But everything gets used, everything gets tossed. So we're saying when you do throw it away, you can throw it into what we call a smash box, and we have one of these in our offices, and some of you guys have also seen them at some of our events. So yeah, it's just a box which has a bunch of crushed cups in it. You could jump in it, smash it. It's very satisfying. It's like
Very
how those
satisfying.
little air bubble popping thing happen.
Mhm.
People get a lot of It's the same type of thing. So the whole idea is that when you could smash this, and it ultimately turns into dust, and the material after it's crushed up can be used as a building material in landscaping and all kinds of things. It's ultimately sand. So that's the Smashbox story. But yeah, would love for you guys to try it out.
I want to try a Smashbox for sure. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. I want to make sure that we get to these last couple of questions. And you mentioned that this concept, this idea for these cups came from while you were traveling in India. Without a doubt, there are so many other planet-friendly, cultural, regional practices that we can learn from, pair with new tech to scale. How do you specifically at GaeaStar go about kind of highlighting and modernizing these practices from a place of cultural appreciation?
Yeah, and I've never thought, of it as of that. I think good ideas are universal; they belong to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm not doing anything per se new. This is an old tradition. I'm just modernizing it using 21st century technology and bringing it more to the West. And I think the way we do it is you get those cultures involved. So this is Indian culture, is my culture, and bringing it in this manner. And it's for everybody to enjoy. So I think if you get those communities involved, you learn a lot uh, on what the real product is, right? So that's how I would approach it. Is really including the community it came from, or the
Yeah.
culture it came from.
I love that. And I think we have so much to learn as we explore the globe. We're going to see these things more commonly. And so then
Yes,
how can we, for someone like you, pair that with your engineering background and this goal of scaling it globally and helping create a more climate friendly planet? We can't just say, oh, this belongs to someone else. No, I can't do this, but get that community involved in the process and really give appreciation and highlight where that idea came from. Okay,
absolutely.
so we have a couple of questions in our chat from the folks who are viewing. Someone is asking, is there a taste difference? Any taste difference with the beverages? What role does temperature play?
Yeah, so no taste difference, and we get these. They are certified food safe because we get them tested by an independent lab. So every few months we have to send some samples. But the key is that they are actually glazed on the inside. There's a very, very thin layer of glaze inside, which is also made out of sand. So it's like absolutely zero taste to it. It's just like drinking out of a ceramic cup.
Very impressive. And then someone else is asking, are these cups as durable as terracotta cups? They have kind of a similar look and feel.
Yeah. So, it's just a function of how thin we make them, right? So they are earthenware because we wanted to make them so that it's really replacing this 15-minute experience.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take care of them, they're fine. If you take a traditional paper cup and what I call hoop strand, it's the circular, diameter, and you try and squish it, these are over 10 times stronger. But it's a different
Wow.
material. It is brittle, right? So when it breaks, it's catastrophic. It'll break like pieces.
Yeah.
So durability depends on how you look at it. And a traditional terracotta cup is really thick. Our cups are less than a millimeter thick. Usually a conventional ceramic or terracotta cup is 4 or 5 millimeters thick. So it's very, very strong, very permanent, but it uses a lot of more energy to make. So we were trying to say, hey, how do we get in the middle between single use and the permanent cup? So they're durable if you use them to how they're intended, right? But they're designed to disappear after a while.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to go to our last question here to kind of close and take us home. And I know that in food service hospitality, sometimes when we're talking about, oh, new technology, robotics, we can get a little bit nervous because we think, oh, this new tech could make our jobs obsolete. What's that balance between optimization and the guest experience? So, how do you recommend that we as food service hospitality professionals embrace new technology and really position ourselves as partners and change makers?
Yeah, in our case, I've learned a lot from our partners is it's the user experience, meaning that whether it's a barista or a chef, they spend so much time choosing the ingredients, sourcing the ingredients to make an absolutely wonderful product. And our product is trying to honor that. We're using technology to fabricate these things, but it's really getting the higher level user experience because of all the parties involved. And then, making sure it's not, damaging the back end aspect of it. So I think the way forward is going to be its combination. So really the chefs and baristas, they're really focused on making the actual flavors and the foods. And then there's technology that supports them. I don't think there'll be ever a day that it's completely like, machine making something, because then it's just industrialized. It's taken the human aspect of it away. Going back to how we started the conversation, right? I don't think a robot can ever reproduce my mom's, dal and rice with the sautéed okra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think we're going to see more and more of this, right? And I think that is what is so exciting to be working in this industry in this time. And if we can really position ourselves as partners and think of it as a way, we are putting so much energy into sourcing our ingredients, into writing our recipes and our menus and preparing these things, that why wouldn't we put an equal amount of thought into that user experience when we deliver, our dishes or our drinks to our guests?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's time to take one step back and really connect with the humanness of food, right? And trying to get it totally automated, it's not, my opinion, it's not the right way to go. We will miss a lot of a lot of flavors in between.
Well, I don't think anyone is going to disagree that single-use plastics is a massive, massive problem for all of us globally. I think it's really energizing and exciting to see work like you're doing with GaeaStar and the potential new products that can be coming onto the market. So I just want to extend a very big thank you to you for joining us, spending your time with us, teaching us and inspiring us. And for everyone that joined and tuned in, thank you. It was great to see you, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much, Sanjeev.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.